Good morning, week 1. My project is called Vepatuit, which means vegetable fruit patterns. In this project, I wanted to showcase the beauty of nature and the natural patterns fruit and vegetable has. As an everyday necessity, we don't appreciate it enough. I wanted to experiment using fruit and veg to discover patterns we never knew existed. My aim is to make a collection of 5 swing dresses with capes. I looked into designers that had incorporated fruit and vegetable into their designs. Recently, designers such as Prada, Stella McCartney and Moschino have been adding fruit and vegetable into their fashion. After a lot of research into different artists, I decided it was time to experiment and make my own. I decided to go to the market to give me some inspiration to know actually what was out there. It was time to experiment using different types of fruit and vegetable such as grapefruit, pomegranate, cabbage and peppers. Printed using different medias such as acrylic paint, watercolours and inks. I did a lot of printing with different colours to see which ones stood out the best. This was one of my favourite prints done with a lime and acrylic paint. I love how the juices of the lime have mixed in with the paint and stained the paper. Then decided to scan all my prints in so that I could manipulate them with Photoshop. This was a grapefruit, kiwi, cabbage, broccoli collaged on top of each other, more broccoli, blue broccoli, an orange, limes, onions, apple, pomegranate, can you guess what this is? 1, 2, 3, broccoli. I decided to use sublimation dye so I could print directly onto fabric. I made a variety of different patterns. To transfer the patterns onto the fabric, you have to heat press it. The heat press is like a big iron which warms up to 190 degrees. It's very hot, and in 40 seconds it can print your pattern onto fabric. Countdown begins. This was one of my favourite patterns that I'd made with cabbage, peppers and kiwi. I did it on satin and polyester fabric. This was also one of my favourites. Good morning, week 2. I did a large shop on Ocado where I bought lots of fruit and vegetable with different patterns inside. I bought pineapple, kiwi, watermelon, blood oranges, dragon fruit, cabbage, honeydew, lemons, limes, fig, apples, pears, strawberries and 3 different types of beetroots. I found someone on Instagram called Raw Vegan Blonde under the name Amber Lucky, and this is what she created by cutting fruit and vegetable into squares. So I thought, why not I give it a go with different types that have patterns on them. I wanted to incorporate the pattern that I had made into different shapes. I got home and couldn't wait to try again with different fruits and vegetables. This was my favourite out of the 2 as it was so bright and colourful. I started editing the pictures that I had scanned in to make patterns. I used Photoshop to place the image and then pick the best kiwi shape that I liked, and then I erased the rest of them and duplicated the shape again and again to make a pattern. I did the same with an orange, broccoli, and I made a collage of oranges and pomegranate. I joined up 2 A3 documents to see how it would look on the dress. I also made a pomegranate pattern by duplicating the pomegranate and also turning it 180 degrees. Decided to put all my patterns onto sublimation paper. This is a special printer where you can heat press and the pattern transfers onto fabric. I love how vibrant it came out on the polyester fabric. This was on satin fabric, but also this was the second print with the sheet that I had used. The ink starts to fade the more you use it as the heat drains out the dye. Week 3, I finally feel like I'm getting somewhere. Tests. I got an image of an orange and then I erased the actual orange and kept the peel. and then I turned the peel into a black silhouette and I made it into a pattern. Kind of hard to explain how I did it, but you can see what I did. I gave my pattern to my teacher so she could make me a screen. Screen printing is when you put pigment onto the screen and drag it through with a squeegee onto any surface you'd like: paper, fabric, wood, leather. I forgot to do a print of my pineapple leaves. As usual, I scanned it in, picked out my favourite part, and then made a pattern. I also manipulated my fruit pattern that I had made into different shapes: pineapple, triangle. I also tried to make a 3D illusion, but I'm not sure how it worked. This is a pepper. Here are some of my initial designs that I had drawn throughout the week. Time to start the dress pattern. Got the back and the front of a basic tunic top in the size 12. I then moved the dart from the bust onto under the arm. Then measured the bottom of the dress, which was 24 centimeters. I divided it by 3, which was 8 centimeters, and I cut up to the waistline to make flares in the dress. I wanted it to be quite flowy as it was going to be a swing dress. I added a seam allowance of 1 centimeter to the sides and 2 at the bottom so I could add bias binding. I also added a seam allowance of 1 centimeter to the armhole and the neck. This was the front and back of the dress. I cut out my pattern in fabric and sewed it together. I was quite happy with how flowy it was, and it turned out exactly how I wanted it. Made my own facing, which was a disaster to put on the dress, so I decided to stick to bias binding. Although I wanted my dress to be flowy, I thought I would try out how it would look if I was to put a petticoat under it, and I didn't like it at all. It was very frumpy and the look didn't go with my collection. I wanted a cape for my dresses, so I started to make a pattern. I used the back pattern piece as an outline. I added another 20 centimeters on so that it was longer than my dress. I flared out the cape more and rounded it at the bottom. This was one of my initial designs that I would laser cut the cape